All right, students, hope you guys are doing well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do both parts 1 and 2 on this video, or I'm going to try to. So let's just see how everything goes. Now, I'll say majority of this we have done several weeks, so I'm hoping that I don't need a lot of time going over everything. But anyway, question number 1, here we go. All right, question number 1, you need to take the equation and put it into a y equals mx plus b setup. Now, the biggest challenge, guys, that I have seen when it comes to a question like this, and that is, do you see how and this is not responding. So let's hope that we can. This is what happened last time, and I wasn't able to do anything. So, what? All right. So, do you see how 3x is positive? The biggest challenge that students have done is when they move 3x over to this side, they leave it positive. So their mistake is negative 4y is equal to 3x minus 4. Guys, that's incorrect. Remember, whenever you go to the other side of the equal sign, you have to go opposite. So that means a positive 3x over here would result in a negative 3x. Most of you guys are screwing up on that. All right. So then you will divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4. So you're at positive y is equal to positive 3 over 4x plus 1. So I'm going to start at plus 1. I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to draw like so. All right. Next one is it's already in slope-intercept form. We're going to start at negative 2. We're going to go up 1 over 4. All right, so I'm just going to draw this the best I can. All right, now remember it's time to test. I always like testing 0, 0. All right, so 0 is 0 greater than 1 over 4 times 0 minus 2. Does that make a true statement? Well, when you multiply all that by 0, that turns into negative 2. So I know that this is true. All right, now remember, you always shade towards the truth. So if I used a point that was above the line, that means all points are above the line, which will make true. All right, so this question here is another most missed question. Remember, you have 4 sections. You have this section, you have this section, you have this section, and then you have this section. You're only going to shade one of the 4 sections. All right, so I always like to start with the easiest point that we know, which is 0, 0. Okay, so I'm going to choose 0.00, and then I'm going to take that and plug it into my equations. Now, it has to be true on both fronts. So for this equation, it's 0 is less than 4 times 0, negative 2. Well, again, 4 times 0, 0 is not greater or less than negative 2. So I already know everything in this section is a no-no. So I'm just going to make this red. All right. The next section, I like to choose points that are right on the axis because I deal with the 0, 5, 0. So let's try this. All right, so y is 0. So 0 is greater than 4 times 5 minus 2. Well, that would be 0 is less than 18. Well, that's a true statement. Okay, let's try the next one. So 0 is less than negative 5 plus 3. Well, that would be 0 is less than negative 2. Well, that's not true. So that's another section where it's not true. All right. All right, let's try this little guy way up here, this little piece here. So I'm going to choose this point right here, which is 0, 5. All right, so is 5 less than 4 times 0 minus 2? Well, again, that will zero out. 5 is less than negative 2. Well, no, that's false. All right, so by process of elimination, it should be this last section. But let's just let's just choose a point. Again, I like to choose this negative 5, 0. All right, so let's see what we got here. Um, Now, again, if I did everything correctly, it should be that point, but let's try it. All right, so that is 0 is less than 4 times negative 5 minus 2. Well, that'll be 0 is less than negative 22. Okay, well, that's a false statement too. All right, so, well, I must have messed up somewhere. All right, pause for a second. Okay, I did some quick little fixing, and I figured out what was wrong. This line is not correct, so it should be right there. That's what it should be. So let's see, 1, 2. So obviously, it's not going to be right on your quiz. But in reality, you get the point of, even though I didn't do it correctly, you get the point. So that line should have been moved over a little bit, and it's actually this point right here that's true. So, but you get the idea. So sorry about that for wasting 2 or 3 minutes of your life. Okay, question number 4. We're trying to graph and figure out where does the graphs intersect. So starting with the very top one first, we're going to start with -2, and then we're going to go down to over 1. So just making point. I'm not even going to draw a line. The reason why, because I'm freehanding it and I don't want to mess up. The next one we're going to start at +2, and I'll just use this blue, +2, and then we're going to go. Now remember, this negative here, -2 over 3, we're going to go down 2 over 1 over 3. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right. So if you were to use your straight edge, it would actually intersect at this point right there, which is -3, +4. All right, solve each equation. We've done this several times. I'm going to subtract 7, that's n over 2 is equal to 3. Times it by 2, times it by 2, n is equal to 6. All right, this one here, I'm going to distribute 28x plus 14 equals 126, and I'm going to subtract 14, and that's 28x is equal to 112, and I bet you, I want to say it's 4. Yep, when I divide by 28x equal to 4. All right, this one here is a little more involved. You remember, whenever you see parentheses, you got to move the parentheses, you got to distribute, so that's 3p plus 4 minus 6p is equal to -12 minus p. All right, so I always like the letters going on this side, but before I do, I'm going to go ahead and combine this to get -3p plus 4 is equal to -12 minus p. All right, and now I'm going to move this p over to the left-hand side because that's where I like all my letters, variables. Now I got to move this 4 out of the way. So -2p is equal to -16. P is equal to +8. All right, question number 8, same concept. I'm going to take this -5, distribute. So 14 minus x is equal to -40 plus 25x minus 8x. I'm going to go ahead and combine this just because it's right next. Remember, you don't have to do opposite when you're not going across the equal sign. So that'll be -40 plus 17x. All right, now I'm going to take the 17, throw it over here. So now it'll be -17x minus 17x. That's 14 minus 18x is equal to -40. Then I'm going to take this 14, throw it over here by subtracting 14, subtracting 14. So -18x is equal to -54, and then divide by -18, and I believe x is going to equal to +3. All right. Solved by elimination. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and, if you remember, switch things out. So I'm going to multiply this by 5, multiply this by 2. However, here's the thing. If you notice, both of these are positive. So that means two positive numbers do not cancel each other out. Something's got to be negative, so I'm just going to make this 5 a negative. So it turns into -10x minus 25y is equal to -45. Okay? This becomes +10x plus 12y is equal to +32. All right? All the x's cancel, so I'm left with -13y is equal to -13. Y is equal to +1. All right? So once you have your y, and most people get their y, it's the getting your x that people screw up on. You're going to take this 1 and you're going to plug it all the way. I like to use the top one because it has smaller numbers. 2x plus 5 times 1 equals 9. That's 2x plus 5 equals 9. I'm going to subtract 5. I get 2x is equal to 4. X is equal to 2. So my final answer is 2, 1. All right. Now, just because of time, question number 10 is exactly like question number 9. So I'm going to go ahead and just give you the answers. So the answer for question number 10 is -9, +9. So -9, +9. There we go. All right, solving for inequalities. All right, so again, we have parentheses, we have to distribute, distribute. So 6 plus 12x greater than or equal to 8x plus 10. Again, I like to put all my x's on that side, so -8x, -8x. I'm left with 6 plus 4x greater than or equal to +10. Okay, I like to bring anything that's not an x over here, so it's going to be 4x greater than or equal to 4x is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so remember, because of the fact that you're dealing with a x is greater than or equal to, we're going to put a big dot on 1, and it's bigger than 1, so that will be over there. All right, so next step here, again, I'm going to distribute. All right, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to tell you how to set up. That's -5 minus 25x. Okay, and the answer is going to be -4. No, correction, be -6. And then you're going to shade to the right. Okay. All right, factor each completely. All right, if you remember, this is a four-step problem. We are going to split it right here. We're going to factor out something on that side. It's 3x squared. 3x squared. So 3x squared goes on the outside. I'm left with x plus 5. All right. I'm going to factor out this side. Factor out a 5. And I'm left with x plus 5. Okay. So if you remember, whatever you factored out goes into one parenthesis. And then these two parentheses are the same. That's what we're looking for. You just drop one in for your answer. Pretty simple. All right. Question number 14. I'm going to factor out an 8p squared. Remember, always factor out the greatest common factor. So 8p squared is equal to, let's see, 7p minus 1. Now, the thing is, the greatest common factor between 21 and 3 is 3. However, see how this 21 is negative? We got to factor out a -3. You should know that. So 7p minus 1, our two parentheses match. So let's go ahead and drop in for our answer. 8p squared minus 3, 7p minus 1. All right. Solve each equation by factoring. All right. First thing out of the gate, what multiplies to get to C and adds to get to B? Well, it's r plus 2, r plus 3 equals 0. But remember, that's not your answer. You got to set each equal to 0 and then solve. So I subtract 2, r is equal to -2, r is equal to -3. There you go. But what most students think is like, oh, I just do the opposite of my combination. So that's the shortcut. So what multiplies to get to C, it adds to get to B. Well, let's see, that would be a plus 5, a plus 3, that equals 0. And then, of course, my answer would be the exact opposite of my combination, -5, -3. All right, 17 and 18. I think I'm not going to be able to do both parts in this one video, so I'm just going to do part one. All right, first thing is, I know what a lot of students are going to want to do is distribute. You cannot, because that's absolute value. Remember, your job is to get the problem that looks something like this. X plus 5 is equal to like 3. Your job is to get only the absolute value portion on this side, okay? So if you notice, there's this -4 and this times by -2. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 4, and our next step is -2, absolute value, 2m plus 2 is equal to -4. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by -2. That cancels that outside 2 out, okay? And so I'm at 2m plus 2 is equal to +2. Oops, sorry, that should have been the absolute value. Okay, now we're at that point where absolute value is the only thing on this side. Okay, that's what we want. So I'm going to split the problem. It's going to be 2m plus 2, not in absolute, not in the bars, and then 2m plus 2 equals -2. and then you solve like you would in 6th grade. Subtract 2, subtract 2, 2m is equal to 0, m is equal to 0, because when I divide by 2. Subtract 2, subtract 2, 2m is equal to -4. Divide by 2, m is equal to -2. There you go, 2 answers. All right. So question number 18, you would solve the exact same way, and just to keep the time down, I'm going to go ahead and just give you the answers. So the answers you should have gotten for question 18 is 1 and 3. All right, so that's part 1. I was not able to get to part 2. That will come probably tomorrow. Thank you for watching.